And hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of NerdyOver30, the podcast where we talk about movies, games, and everything pop culture. Today's guest is a really fun one for me. As everybody knows, one of my favorite movies is Hackers. And these guys kind of dedicate their whole channel, website to hackers. The guys from the Hackers Curators crew.
Hi.
How's it going, everybody?
Howdy.
What up?
If you guys want to go down the line and introduce yourselves, starting with the ladies.
Hi, I'm Jenn. I co-founded the site back with our glorious leader, Eric. I don't even remember how many years ago.
I have that fact. It happens to be 2018, but I'm Eric Meredith. I am non-demo guy, the founder of Hackers Curator, and I will hand it over to our third partner in crime for his introduction.
I'm Chris. I lurked the website for a long time and then joined up, I don't remember, maybe 2019. I creeped in and here we all are together now.
Wait, how long of a lurking period are we talking about? Because, you know, there's like lurking and then there's stalking and then there's danger.
I will say a friend of mine sent me a link to, knowing I was a huge Hackers fan, sent me a link to one of the prop pagers that Eric was working on, and sent it to me at 11 o'clock at night, and I sat on that website, the website, until like 3 a.m, just obsessively pouring through all of this archived content, losing my mind, being like, they're out here, there are more of us. And then I think that same night I wrote a message to them and was like, hey, I'm here, what do you need?
Let me in.
For you. Yeah, 100%.
So how would you guys summarize Hackers to someone that never seen Hackers?
As far as like what the movie's about, or about our crazy obsession about it?
Well, what the movie's about, and then your crazy obsession about it.
Yeah, and then how this whole thing came to be, Eric.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
It's not about computers.
Yeah. So Hackers, the movie, is about a ragtag team of, eclectic people from all ages, all walks of life, all cultures, that find themselves in some ways at the wrong place at the wrong time, and fighting, electronically, I suppose. Big business that is out to get them. As far as the whole thing started, I actually thank Chris and Jenn, because when I started down this path, I wasn't quite sure like how it was going to go, because that almost freaky fandom a lot of people just don't get. So when I put this video up of recreating a couple of the props and talking a little bit about it, people started coming out of the woodworks. Jenn was one of the first that I would consider was on my level and willing to express it. And I was like, damn, all right, if there's a place for this, like, I've been spending a lot of time looking up information about these things. It needs a place to be put. As you guys are well aware, you get into the pop culture movies, especially back into the 90s and earlier, you don't have the hours and hours of bonus footage on Blu-ray, DVDs and stuff like that. It's just all gone. And for movies that were as impactful to the zeitgeist, if you will, that Hackers was, like, it was deserving of it. And that's kind of how it got started.
Yeah. So your guys' website is, you can ask David. I have been looking for Johnny Lee Miller's leather jacket, his Cafe Racer jacket, for years, since we were kids, and I'm trying to figure out what type of jacket it was, and just researching, and I couldn't figure it out. Until I stumbled across your website, and I found that it was a TT leather jacket. Mind you, I am still looking like a crazy person for it, but
I told him to just make his own.
It's not the same. But
I want
really
Johnny Lee Miller to wear mine.
But
as far as as far as props go, as far as things go, that jacket is by far the thing we get asked about most.
Yeah.
All the time.
Absolutely.
All
like
the
without
time.
question. I even have a pinned thing at the top of my Twitter just about the jacket and just about my journey to find the jacket, because actually this website, when I came across it, the jacket was a grail for me too, you know, ever since I was a teenager. And I found out, you know, again, the details, the TT Cafe 70s jacket. And I just happened, then I started lurking the Patreon and whatever. And I just happened to be on late night one night and a little thumbnail popped up for this international listing. I was like, oh shit, is that, wait. And I immediately posted and Eric responded, he was like, dude, that, well, he was like, that's it. I mean, aside from the zipper, O-ring is actually not technically accurate. But otherwise, yes, buy that jacket right now.
Yeah, so I know exactly what listing you're talking about, and I have seen a picture of you that floats around the internet in the jacket, smiling with the biggest smile ever. And just so you know, there's a couple times where I've seen you in that photo. I'm like, I hate him so much, but in a good way.
I mean, you can hate all of us because each of us has one.
Yeah,
We all have one.
Crazy
Yeah.
stuff, crazy.
We all have one.
But back to where I was going with this, I found that website and I was like, holy crap, I didn't know there was anybody else who cared about this movie like I care about this movie. I mean, I used to print out pictures of the Hackers cast and put it in my binders in like middle school and stuff like that. Like
Hell yeah.
crazy stuff
One
like
of
that.
us, one of
Trapper
us.
keeper.
That's right.
You're not leaving the podcast forum.
I'm sorry.
I'm just letting you know.
So wait. So you all have the jacket. So you have it too as well, Jen, huh?
I actually, until recently, had 2 of them.
Oh my.
Wow.
So you missed out, is what she's saying.
I randomly found someone who had 2 of them online. Like,
Crazy.
I don't know how. Bought both of them.
Shit.
Wow.
And I,
Expert purchase.
yeah.
So
And
you
of
guys
course,
ever-
I have mine, and I happen to have, until the 25th anniversary, I had 2 of Angelina Jolie's jacket as well, and ended up giving one of them away on our 25th anniversary screening, where we had a bunch of folks cast from the film join us and just do like a commentary over the movie, which was really cool. And we were, you know, giving stuff away during the film
Oh,
as
that's
well.
awesome.
I do
That
want to
was
get
a great
into
night.
yeah, I do want to get into that. Before that, so were you collecting? So you were collecting before the whole website came about for Hackers.
Yeah.
So how'd
Yeah.
that start? So how'd that whole journey start? Like, what was the piece that started, and then you're like, now I just got to go crazy.
You know, honestly, obviously I had a history with the movie, but then I, you know, sort of fell out of it, probably in the late 90s, early 2000s, as I started, you know, to be part of the corporate world. Other things took over, but then the 20th anniversary thing happened, and I was in Denver, and there was a 20th anniversary screening at the Alamo Draft House.
Oh,
And
Love that
I was like,
theater.
it's playing again
Love
in the
that
theaters on 35 millimeter. I got to go do this. And I
Yes.
did it.
absolutely.
And it like reignited that spark. And that's when the whole pager thing happened. And again, going back to that story, it wasn't long after that I had met Teen Prez. But kind of behind the scenes of all that, yeah, obviously fashion is something that a lot of people really sort of gravitate towards as it relates to the movie. And I had just sort of, I mean, we can go days and days about all the goofy stories of how deep I get on some of these things.
Go on.
I tracked down what Roger Burton was doing at the time, and I found his company in the UK, and I just emailed him. I said, hey, had some questions about a couple of things, and if you guys don't know Roger and his people over there, the nicest people you could ever meet, and totally willing to just sort of fuel the fire and just give me information on a few things. And so that's how I sort of got my start on figuring out what the jacket was all about. And he actually sent me a couple stickers because I had bought, so this computer right here in my background, this was my holy grail item, was Johnny Lee Miller's camouflage luggable computer.
Yep.
And I'm like, is that even really a thing? Like, where did this come from? And I had already found some of the parts for it, but there was a particular sticker that I couldn't find. And he had like 6 of them.
Wow.
And he's like, you want me to send you one? I'll just send you one in the mail.
Just like that.
Please and thank you.
Yeah. So that's kind of where my collecting was at, as things were sort of really starting to brew.
And now you have the New York's last telephone stand.
Yeah. Some interesting. I got 2 pay phones over here.
It's a dinosaur.
Some interesting stories.
So
It's crazy to say that
behind
that's
him
like
works too.
Yeah,
oh, it does.
Is dial tones off of from the movie.
Yeah,
Wow.
it's a little bit more than a payphone. It's got a Raspberry Pi, and it rings, and you can dial numbers and stuff, and have it play sound effects and clips.
Oh, that's
It's kinda
awesome.
funny.
Oh shit,
Awesome.
that's pretty cool. Yeah.
And so, how about for you two? Where did your collecting journey start?
So for me, I definitely saw Hackers way back in the day when it first came out, not in the theater, but as a Blockbuster rental.
Yep.
And I,
Mhm.
yeah, I really enjoyed the movie then, but I kind of reconnected with it in the early 2000s by throwing a Hackers themed birthday party for someone.
Oh wow,
Nice.
that's awesome.
And after that, my obsession with the movie just kind of spiraled out, and I became kind of obsessed with getting Burns' motorcycle jacket.
Mhm.
And I guess I had been searching for it off and on for 10 years with no luck. I had really only seen 1 or 2 of them ever appear during that time.
Wow.
And honestly, I don't remember what brought me to you, Eric,
Yeah.
but it may have been the jacket. Yeah, anyway, so
Eric can tell you in detail.
Yeah.
as soon as I met Eric, we kind of started making these crazy spreadsheets of like every costume piece in the film and trying to look up as much information as we could about it. And like Eric said, Roger, the costume designer, is super, super helpful, but we tried to do as much research on our own as possible so we didn't have to bug him about every little question we had.
Can you send us this? Can you send us that?
Yeah, if you've seen the
Yeah.
website, that would have been a pretty massive.
So as we started to compile all this information, you know, I kept finding more and more pieces from the movie that I wanted to acquire.
Mhm.
So oddly enough, the burn jacket was probably the most recent thing that I found.
Wow. So
Yeah, it
basically,
took a
the
very
one
long
that's
time.
the one that started it all is the last one you got. As of
Yeah. And I actually got 2 copies of the jacket before that, but Eric told me they weren't quite right. So I had to keep
Tend
looking.
to. I can't help myself.
Hey,
I
you
know.
see,
Sucker for
David.
details.
You see, David. That's why you need the real one. No, well, listen. I know all about that. I'm in the 501st Star Wars Costuming Club, and if you know anything about the 501st, we are sticklers for movie accuracy and every little detail. So I get you, Eric. I get
It's
you.
like that shoulder pad
Yeah,
is not quite
yeah,
right.
yeah.
It's not the
Yeah.
right color orange. It's a little
Yeah.
bit off.
Yeah, because most people because most people don't know that each movie has a different stormtrooper and they're different little things, and yeah, it's crazy
It's a
stuff.
curse.
So did you guys ever like
Oh wait,
wear
wait.
stuff like that?
Oh no, David. Sorry, Chris didn't say how his
Yeah.
collecting journey started.
My origin story is similar to Jen's. I found the VHS tape in a local small town grocery store. It was in the horror section. Shrug. And actually, recently I found a copy of the VHS on eBay that had a horror sticker on it.
Wow.
And I was like, oh, absolutely. Like the miscategorization of Hackers, but whatever. So I rented that movie so many times I actually burned out the VHS and my mom had to find it. It was sort of this like perfect storm of music and fashion and all of that. And for my like 13-year-old brain, I could not process all of what I was seeing in one viewing. And so, but probably the kickoff for me, I had an older cousin who did all of his karate forms to the Hackers soundtrack. And so he had, there are three, it was Mortal Kombat soundtracks and Hacker soundtracks. So there's this like incredible electronic music convergence that like went in both sides of my ears. But the soundtracks, he gave me the original soundtrack, the second one, and then also the third one. And that was, again, being 13, getting that, you know, listening to Prodigy and Orbital and for the first time was pretty incredible. And then from that, I reconnected with it again. I'd always been a fan, that never stopped, but in the early 2000s too, and my hunt was always for the jacket. And again, it took me 10 years to find the jacket too. I mean, it was every saved eBay search, you know, Googling it constantly, trying to find it, not knowing the name, not knowing what it was, until I, you know, got up with this gang. But yeah, so soundtracks for sure were the first, and then it's been every little bit and piece and anything Hackers related that we can find, we grab. And it's amazing actually that stuff keeps popping up that we haven't seen before. And it's I think one of the recent ones that I thought was really great was this like promotional mouse keychain that was like a laser pointer.
Oh, really?
That was Hackers, yeah. And there's like a mini laptop calculator, and there's all sorts of stuff that came out that, I mean, as far as promotional material, anyway. So it's a you never know. Every day you wake up and it's your saved searches say Hackers, whatever, and you click through them and you never know. So it's been like the rest of the game.
You know what's funny? It's funny you say that about your brother, because I did martial arts when I was a kid, and I remember we had like a demo team and we had the music, and I remember giving him the Hackers soundtrack, my teacher, and saying, hey, you should use this for the class, and we used it for one of our demo team things. So that's pretty funny.
You're a better martial artist. You're better at karate when you're doing it to the Hackers soundtrack.
It's such a good soundtrack.
That's science,
Freaking awesome soundtrack. I love that soundtrack.
Probably one of the best.
Yeah.
It is really good.
Yeah,
really
super underrated.
Yeah. And
It's
that's how I got into.
Super 90s. I loved it.
Oh yeah, and then that's how I got into Prodigy, and then the Prodigy experience,
I got
and
obsessed
music for
with
the Jilted
Prodigy.
Generation. Yeah.
I think it brought a lot of people of a certain age to electronic music for the first time.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
Sure. Yeah. I freaking had to go to Barnes and Noble to order the CDs, the Prodigy CDs at the time.
So have you guys ever done like a convention where you cosplayed as one of the characters?
I did. So the Denver Comic-Con, this was probably 4 years ago now. I definitely did a Dade Murphy cosplay.
Nice.
There were only like 2 people at the entire con that recognized me, and I
I
had
was
this.
gonna say, how'd that go?
I had this little sign that just says "Hack the Planet" that I cut out of like a signboard, and I kind of put it in my backpack.
Yeah.
And every now and then someone would just yell out "Hack the Planet" as a result, and I turn around, you know, and acknowledge them. But so yeah, I have.
I actually think those are the best costumes at cons. So we go to a lot of cons, but I think those are the best costumes when it's like really obscure and only a few people get it. I think there's something a little extra to that. Like you feel extra good about yourself.
Yeah.
So
Dave, we do pretty good at Scott's Tots.
What's that?
We do pretty good at Scott's Tots.
He's making an Office reference. If you guys watch The Office.
Oh yeah.
Scott's Tots.
All of you
we
should
basically bought a Scott's Tots shirt, like the one that they use in the episode, and we just wore that as our cosplay.
You're
I
waiting for
imagine
that
was
scholarship.
really popular.
It was.
I mean, we graduated, so it's fine.
So also what I wanted to know is how'd you guys go about starting to get some of the actors to do interviews with you guys? I thought that was pretty crazy. I was like, well, how'd they even go about that? Because coming from someone who has a podcast and who has emailed a lot of people, it's not easy.
I think it actually started with Cast, right, Eric?
It did. It did.
Sorry, with crew or cast?
So it started with crew. So obviously
Okay.
Roger Burton was up for it.
Mhm.
He was cool. And I think through that process, we just sort of learned, just ask, ask for it and see what people will be willing to do. I mean, it's easy to get it in your mind that they've been in movies, they're famous, they're never even going to see my email, right?
Yeah.
And I think what Roger taught, that the experience with Roger taught us was, just reach out and ask. The first cast member that we got was Renly Santiago. And especially, I mean, it's easier now than it's probably ever been in the past, with Instagram and Twitter and Facebook and all these other things. Like you can just find people, right? And so I found Renly Santiago, and I just started chatting him up. Hey, we got this web page. We're trying to get a bunch of stuff for the movie. Would you be interested in doing an interview? And to our surprise, he's like, yeah, I'd be willing to get on the phone with you guys and answer some questions. So we sat with him for about an hour and just asked him a bunch of questions. And once the first one goes down, it's a little bit easier because you can, reach out to the next person and be like, hey, Lawrence Mason, by the way, we chatted with Renly Santiago. We did this interview, and it sort of, in some ways the dominoes start falling, at least until you get to a certain point. There's some pretty heavy dominoes out there that aren't even tipping yet, but we keep pushing, we keep trying. But
hey man, that's what you got to do. You just got to keep putting it out there and see what happens. And a lot of times, like you said, a lot of times people grab.
Dude, let me tell you, we're trying.
If you follow the Hackers Curator Twitter at all and you look in comment sections, Eric is always asking, like Mark Anthony, like, hey, what about an interview? Like all the time. The footwork is being laid down all the time. I mean,
never
just
stop.
the Bradford interview for sure, like the persistence that went into getting him and getting that interview was super impressive. And he, of course, turned out to be such a wonderful guy and such a cool person to talk to. But again, if you want to know what the legwork looks like, just look in some of these guys' comment sections, and Hackers Curator is in there.
Jesse Bradford and Matthew Lillard was a particularly difficult sell. Like that one took a while to make happen.
Didn't Matthew flat out tell us no quite a few times?
A couple times, yeah, just like, look, I'm not interested.
Funny enough, I thought he was like probably one of the best ones because I saw the video. I was like, wow, he's so much fun. But he looks like he said no a couple of times. You
would think that, yeah. We had to wear him down for sure. We had to wear him down, but he was a really good interview. It's like, all right, now once you get in, like it's pretty cool. He
was just so genuine, and he really gave us his time, and
it seems like it.
In what we had to say.
So after the first second no, did you guys just copy and paste your responses? Like maybe if I keep saying the same thing.
It's a fine line for sure. It's a fine line. I worry that I've already been blocked by Johnny Lee Miller's agent. It's a fine line. You got to be like, how long has it been since I sent that last email? 2 months? Yeah, maybe we can get away with another one.
I even got a tattoo of his face on my leg, and he didn't even react to that either. I'm like, what else can we do?
I gave you my body.
I'm like, you're here with me forever now.
Get one on your back.
Yeah, I know. I need something. Just all Johnny all the time. In my mind, he was my first boyfriend for sure.
You heard it here, folks.
Yeah, it's right here. Hey, Johnny. Let's reconnect.
I would love to see the Mark Anthony interview. I didn't even think of that one, but that would be quite funny to see that interview.
That one would be really good.
We've actually heard some interesting stories about his involvement, so I would love to get his perspective.
So is there anybody that you guys are working on or kind of wearing down that might be in the works soon?
Well, Angelina Jolie.
Angelina, we're working on that one. I don't know that we've quite broken the Notice Me Senpai section yet, but we are working on Michael Gaston. He's someone who we've been in sort of intermittent communication with. He was one of the agents that actually is counterpart of Mark Anthony's character. He's the one that's known probably best for speaking the hacker manifesto in the taxi, or I guess not taxi, but in the car. So he's been in the works. Johnny Lee Miller, as we mentioned, like we're consistently hitting up his agent and dropping little hints and stuff whenever he posts some jujitsu stuff online.
You should just start sending emails with no content, just subject saying hackers or just
hackers. Are you ready yet?
I mean, the
just random quotes from the movie. Just put it on the subject.
Just our
open
faces.
the email. There's nothing in it. Just screw around.
I mean, I feel like we're at a really good time right now after the anniversary, after, you know, there was such a resurgence of interest in Hackers when that happened with the release of the multiple Blu-rays, the soundtrack on vinyl. You know, we had our screening, there were other screenings. There's a younger generation of people coming up, like finding the movie, finding the music again. And so some of these interviews, I feel like there's a level of interest in it that way because it is really popular and it is, you know, as opposed to before the anniversary. So that seems to be helpful, at least a little bit, especially with viewership of the videos and interaction with all the content. Like there's definitely a lot more people coming. We built it and they are coming now.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
And then it also seems like the fashion from the movie is coming back into fashion now, all that type of fashion.
There are some who would argue it never left.
No,
you're exactly right.
I am one of those who believes it never left, but it seems as of now, a lot of that style is really, really prominent, even within music and a bunch of stuff.
Oh, I definitely agree. There are some aspects, whether it's conscious or not, there, and you know, Jenn being definitely involved in the fashion space has even called this out as well. It's like, you know, camouflage had its place in the 90s, but you're seeing some camouflage stuff coming back around. Certainly some of the club culture stuff seemingly coming back around. And then of course, because there was such a high fashion aspect with, you know, Vivian Westwood and some of those other things, Malcolm McLaren, you know, having pieces in the film as well. I mean, those have never sort of fallen out, but are coming back around. Yeah, I'm sure Jenn can talk to you more about the fashion stuff, but yeah, I would agree wholeheartedly.
Yeah, I think one thing that is super interesting about the fashion in Hackers and the costume design of Hackers is that a lot of the style in the show or in the movie really isn't like 90s style. It's not really 90s trends. It was, you know, Roger taking all these kind of historical designer pieces, vintage and club influences, and kind of mixing them all together into something totally new. And I think that's why it still feels really interesting and fresh.
Yeah.
Kind of, you know, not pulling from any one specific reference.
No, yeah, that's there's so many pieces from that movie I want. Actually, talking about pieces from the movie, how did you get into doing all the DIY stuff? Like, was that something you were always making things, Eric, or did that something that happened after you started doing all the hacker stuff?
I mean, I've always been, good question. I've always been a bit of a DIY enthusiast. You know, being a broke kid in the 90s growing up, like you figure out how to make stuff on your own and and stuff like that. And I've always just had interest in it. But you know, you talk about the jacket, Johnny Lee Miller's jacket was a big thing for me as well. And in some of our other conversations and videos, like that was one of the things that I really dove into to try to figure out. And, you know, I had this other jacket that's really, really similar. And I'm like, oh, this has got to be it. Like, and if you go watch that video, you can see why. It's like, except for like one zipper and a couple of the things, it looks like the jacket, but it's just not. And I'm like, well, I can't get this jacket, right? I don't have I can't find it, first of all. And if it shows up, it's probably going to be crazy expensive. So I'll just make one. and it's always the easy. It always feels like the easier approach, and it always feels like the cheaper approach. It never generally turns out to be the case. But that's sort of how it happened. Like, and there's a certain gratification that comes out of maybe less making it, honestly, than just figuring out what all the parts are. Like in the background here, this flight suit thing that serial killer wears. Like, you know, I didn't even have a Blu-ray copy of the movie at the time, and I'm looking at this crappy DVD and I'm like blowing it up on the screen. What is that patch? I can see it for like 6 frames in the movie. What the hell is that thing? Going into Google image search for hours and just looking, it's like, I found it. And so there's a certain gratification that comes out of, like, you know, finally getting the puzzle pieces to fit together. And then, you know, making it after the fact is just kind of icing on the cake.
No, yeah.
You really do feel like you're solving a mystery, you know?
That's true, yeah.
Like, you have a very small, finite amount of information you can work from, and you have to figure out a way to creatively figure out what it is.
Yeah.
It's pretty exciting.
Well, I'm glad you guys came along, because I was been racking my brain for years trying to figure out some of these things. Like, I definitely want to try and make the camo vest, the purple camo vest. I thought that was a great video. That seemed like a lot of fun.
That's a good gateway. You know.
Yeah, that definitely seemed like
prop.
that definitely seemed like one that I can do at home and not mess it up too bad.
Yeah, I'd probably end up stabbing myself somehow. So I'm not even gonna entertain that.
Been there, done that.
Yeah.
And then oh, sorry, David, go ahead.
So wait, is this something relatable to what you just said? Like,
No. Go ahead.
Okay, cool. So watching the movie, I mean, you get influenced by a lot of the pop culture going on there. So did you ever believe, maybe I could become a hacker?
I mean, my 13-year-old brain was like, absolutely, like, hacking is. I remember going on our, like, I grew up in the country, like in rural Wisconsin. And I remember going on dial-up and just starting to search, like, virus, smiley face, you know, hacker, cookie, like, whatever, because it was, you know, and I mean, I was like, if that's what hacking is, that's the coolest thing I've ever seen in my entire life.
Yeah, so
never succeeded, by the way, but you know, definitely gave it the old college try for sure.
No, yeah, I can definitely say that I wanted to be a hacker, but I didn't want to put in the work to be a hacker. So I was like, I can probably just like dress like them and pretend.
The fashion is 90% of it, right? Like, there are lots of people who will dissect this movie and tell you, that's not real. That's not what it looks like. And I was like, you don't know what you're talking about. Like, if you put a leather jacket and rollerblades on and sit in front of a computer,
don't forget the shade.
You can like capsize an oil rig. You can do whatever you want.
I will definitely say that me and David did a lot of rollerblading because of that movie when we were younger.
Yes, 100%. I thought I was like the shit.
And that's coming around. Speaking of which, that's coming back around.
It is.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
I haven't thrown out my blades from the 90s, so they're still there waiting.
You're wearing them right now. Just like kicking them back and forth, just wheeling around.
I actually broke both my wrists trying to rollerblade in my acid burn movie accurate rollerblades at the beginning of COVID.
Thankfully, I've only fractured my wrist, but damn, that sucks. Both.
Yeah.
So you were walking around.
It wasn't too bad, but.
Hey! True dedication.
Dedication to the craft. That's right.
Wait, but both at the same time?
Yeah, I mean, they were like fractures. They weren't like compound breaks.
Oh, okay.
I
was like, wait, bro.
I guess you have.
They were pretty messed up for a while.
Shit. I mean, damn, that sucks.
Now, there's one dream I still have, and that is to go skate through Grand Central without getting arrested.
Thought about it.
Honestly, I think without getting killed should be your priority.
Yeah, the death.
And then,
2022.
And then, hey, if you guys ever think about filming that, let me know. I'll come rollerblade with you guys.
We just have to arrange like
a
Hackers Day skate off and get everybody to, you know,
Oh
commandeer
yeah,
Fifth Avenue, like
yeah.
skate up Fifth
If
and,
you
and
did
go
like
into
a,
Grand Central.
that's actually not a
We'll
bad
make
idea for like a
some
flash
spinning.
mob.
We'll make
Yeah,
some
flash
spinning phone booths for everyone to get inside for that. We'll give you.
They might stop me, but they can't stop us all.
Exactly.
Hack
There you
the
go.
planet.
Hack the planet.
So, question. I know you guys love Hackers. What's another favorite movie you guys mutually love? Like, what's a top 5? Let's see a top 5.
Yeah, to see what other stuff you guys are into.
Who asked?
Matrix has to be one of them.
Someone asked
Matrix
us
is
this
like
question. What was another movie that we would do like a deep dive in? And I think the one that I had said it was Fifth Element was one.
Ooh.
Especially isolating a movie that has so many themes. You can like all of the sort of Galliano, like all of the clothing, the costume pieces in that, like the props in that, like at least for me, you know, that's the kind of movie that is so rich and like very specific aesthetic that it'd just be a lot for you to be able to dig into and find. So Fifth Element for sure.
I like. How about you guys?
Well said.
There's definitely no other movie that I would give as much of my time to as I have to Hackers in the past.
Purist.
The only movie for me that was pivotal enough that I would be passionate enough to do it on would be Goonies, but I can't think of, like, I don't know. There's just some of those Nike sneakers are maybe just not that interesting. I'm sure there's Nike fans out there cursing you right now, talking about how expensive those vintage, you know, high tops are or something. But
yeah.
You know, from the fashion aspect, I think I've definitely done some pretty deep dives into Clueless, but it's a movie that is much more widely celebrated than Hackers is. So, you know, the thrill isn't quite the same. You're not necessarily treading new ground.
That's right.
Right.
Yep. Still a great movie.
Yeah. I still only take Polaroids. I don't trust mirrors.
So as you guys know, a lot of movies nowadays, I mean, we're going back in time, basically. A lot of movies are getting rebooted. What is your thoughts on reboots?
And if they were ever to do a Hackers reboot, would you just die a little inside?
Jen, you want to take this one?
Yeah, Jen.
I would say in general, I'm not a huge fan of reboots, but on principle, but you know, if there's room to do something new and interesting, that's really cool. For Hackers specifically, I just don't think that they could ever capture the same sort of zeitgeist feeling that the original Hackers did. And I think even though a lot of the issues in Hackers still seem really current, you know, I think we're in a different place in time when it comes to how we look at technology. Instead of, you know, being more hopeful about it, I think people are a lot more pessimistic and wary of where we are with technology. So I'm not sure the spirit could ever be recreated in quite the same way.
Agreed.
Yeah. I think the movie would be really hard to reboot in terms of a vanilla reboot, like take the same story, the same themes and stuff and reboot it. I just think you'd have a really hard time selling that because I don't know, it's probably easier to fathom now than it was in the 90s, but you know, so many people are so much more in tune with what is truly capable and stuff like that. So I don't think it would go as well. And we tend to ask this similar type of question when we're doing interviews with the cast and crew. And it's interesting. I mean, a lot of people do have thoughts about how a sequel could potentially work. Ian himself, when we interviewed the director, Ian Softly, even talked about it. And in fact, when we did Jeff Kleeman, who is the executive VP of production, he even mentioned like that the studios were talking about it. But one of the things that they always seem to mention is that technology moves so fast now that by the time you get something done, some of the things may not even be relevant anymore. So it can be really hard. It's like Jen said, in some ways, Hackers captured lightning in a bottle. It was the right place, the right time. So many things were new and fresh. The soundtrack, you hadn't heard that type of music in movies very much, or at all at that point, depending on your age. It would be really difficult to do that again.
No, for sure, definitely.
Yeah.
Well, what did they say in Scream 6? They said so it's like requels now. So now it's like you get the reboot and the sequels and you put it together and you get all the legacy characters or whatever from the sequel. Now you could even put both together, the new and the
New
old.
generation.
Yeah, so that's the only thing I can think of what they could bring is like Johnny Lee Miller, Angelina, and then some new dudes or something.
Yeah.
Well, there's no lack of interest in that. I can tell you, at least from the majority of the cast, Lawrence and Renly especially, like they're all about it. Like they're super interested. Fisher Stevens said, "Oh, absolutely, I'd reprise my role."
Wow.
Even the most recent, Jesse Bradford was like, "I would love to do a sequel." And there's only two.
Wow.
I think he even said something like, "There are only 2 movies that I've done that I would have any interest in doing a sequel on," and it was like Bring It On and Hackers. So there is interest from the cast, at least.
I didn't have the heart to tell him that there were like 4 Bring It On sequels already that he's done. Which I've watched all of them, and I can't get that time back. But
So I have a funny story about him. I used to work at a G-Star in the city, the clothing brand, and he walked in one day shopping, and my boss, we had a lot of celebrities rolling through, and my boss was like, "Never geek out, fan out." Totally broke the rules. Started yapping his brain out, but he was super nice, and we were talking, and I was like, "Yeah," and he was like, "Oh yeah, like my favorite movies from you are." My 2 favorite characters they did are Joey from Hackers and your character in Bring It On. And he just looked at me like, wow, like you must have really bad taste in movies.
You're the guy he was talking about.
Yeah, you're the guy. You're that guy. I mean, Matthew Lillard said the same thing, right? Matthew Lillard was like, "Why do you like this?"
Yeah, I definitely saw that because you guys were talking about the fashion, and he was like, "So what about the fashion? You guys like about the fashion?"
It's got to be a fairly unique experience. I mean, I certainly have nothing that probably even comes close, but to have someone come up, imagine, right? So I work in IT. Imagine some joker on the street comes and says, "I read those 3 lines of code that you did back, 16 years ago. Those were the best lines of code I've seen in my life." Like, and I put myself in those shoes, and I think that person was maybe a little bit weird.
Yeah, I definitely probably freaked him out a little bit. That was probably one of the times that I freaked somebody out. So, have you guys ever met any of them in real life? Any of your cast members?
Yeah, absolutely. I went, like Eric, I went to a 20th anniversary screening at my favorite movie theater, Nighthawk Cinema. And they had quite a few members of cast and crew there to watch the movie with us. And they did like a Q&A afterwards. And most of them actually came down to the bar and had drinks with us afterwards.
Oh, that's pretty awesome.
I got to chat with Fisher Stevens and quite a few others.
Oh, that's really cool. It's always cool when the people that you like from movies turn out to actually be nice people in real life.
Yeah.
I've had a couple bad experiences with celebrities too. So
the closest I got, I actually went to New York, and I met Jenn when I was there, and I was another layer exposed, I suppose. I went to find all the shooting locations, like find the exact spot where the camera was when they did this thing. So think of that what you will, but
Want to tell them where we ate?
Well, the funny thing is, I was going to ask, are you guys ever going to do a video where you guys go to all the filming locations and show?
I have the footage. I have.
Oh,
the footage.
okay.
Okay.
But Jen and I met. So interesting. I'll bring the story full circle.
Tell us. Yeah.
The main reason I went was because Simon, who did the primary, majority of the score, first time that him and his band were coming to the US to do a show. And they got this little tiny bar stage in New York. And so I was like, Jen, we got to go see this. Like, we got to do this. And so we did. But when we met up at the restaurant that Gil is at when he gets his credit card cut up. We met at that restaurant, which is still there. And if you go to the webpage and look at the photos, like, it hasn't changed at all. The phone, I think, is not there anymore, but the bar is the same, the signs are the same, the artwork is the same. And so that was interesting. But as a result, I spent a couple days there and took a bunch of photos. But to answer your original question, as I was there, I reached out to Renly and said, hey, do you think it'd be possible to get some lunch sometime? And he's like, yeah, we should totally do that. And we just weren't able to make it work. But that's the closest I got to meeting any of them in real life, I guess.
At least it was possible.
Yeah.
Definitely.
That's cool that you're even talking to him, saying to get lunch. That's cool to say just that.
Me and him connect every now and again. He hits me up on my phone, is like,
That's
hey,
awesome.
I got some questions on X, Y, and Z. It's kind of fun.
Yeah, he's out here hustling. He's got, if you're interested, he's got like autographed floppy disks that are out, and there's he's got a Phantom Freak website and all that. So
yeah.
As far as me, no, I haven't met anybody. I haven't been in any kind of situation where Johnny, if you hear me, like, I'm here, I'm waiting. But no, I haven't. And these two, they did a costume exhibition in the UK, and the pandemic ruined our ability.
Still too soon. 2 years and it's still
I'm sorry.
too soon.
It's like it's really
Don't remind
pressing.
me.
But the three of us were talking pretty seriously about going, and that would have been my first time meeting these two. And we were even thinking, like, so wait, we have to quarantine for 15 days? Okay. We could do that. We could go and just stay in a hotel for an extended period of time and then go to the show. But we're waiting for our moment. We're trying to help him get a venue, right? Somewhere in New York, so we can
bring the exhibit to the US.
He said he would bring it.
No.
Well, I mean, if we will definitely be there for that if you guys make that show happen. That would be a show I would love to go see.
Oh, 100%.
That'd be a dream.
Chris, you're disappointing me, man. You started with the whole lurking, and then you can't even lurk these people right.
Travel restrictions are letting up. We had a recent conversation with Ian Softly. He's got a whole bunch of archive stuff, and we're like, if we happen to get out there, can we swing by and take a look? He's like, yeah, we can probably make that work. So we have incentive to get out there. That
interview was a blast. But
amazing.
Near the end of that interview, he starts pulling stuff down off of the shelf, just kind of like, I might have all the storyboards for this. Just kind of pulls them down and opens all these hand-drawn, stuff that like we would never have seen. There's scenes in there, we know for a fact that there are bits and pieces, scenes, stuff that was written that never got included. And he hadn't looked at those in forever. And then Jen was like, well, I've been thinking about putting together a book. Book. And he's like, oh yeah, we should talk about that. Just like,
that was a good shot to shoot there.
Yeah. He lit up. That guy, the cool thing with Ian Softly is that he has a lot of love for that movie. Right. He doesn't look at that movie as something that he did and he's kind of like, that was early in my career. And it was, like a lightning in a bottle moment. And it seems just as passionate about it now as he was then, which is so cool to see. It sort of validates, our level of geekery towards this. Like,
No, I think the movie the problem was it was ahead of its time. I think people just weren't ready to understand it, and that's why it has such a big cult following. took that many years for people to really get it. You know?
Yeah.
Like
Totally
for me, like I was a late bloomer with Hackers. Like Worm, he had to introduce me to it,
Mhm.
and I was just like, why haven't I heard of this?
Yeah.
This is amazing. Like I was just like, what is this? But yeah, I really wish they would have advertised it a little better at the time. You know, I mean, but advertising was also different back
Yeah,
then.
it was way different.
It definitely was.
Yeah, like an indie movie back then was like worse than an indie movie nowadays because it was like really, really, really small. So, and you had to really see it and you had to like it.
Every once in a while, we found these repros of If I Was Home. I'm in Vancouver right now, but I would hold up the world tour, the Hacker World Tour.
Oh, the shirt, yeah.
So there were efforts, I guess, being made to really get this going. But you know, it's such a niche thing. And you know, for those of us who saw it and had a moment with it, right? Like you know what it was. I mean, I didn't have any friends that were interested, for sure. Like I definitely showed it off, and if it doesn't click with you, it just doesn't click with you.
Yeah.
Oh, I was
was
the only one that liked it in my crew too.
Yeah.
Like
So
that, in the 90s, so.
So I guess I was definitely lucky enough to show my friends like David and them really like it. So that was definitely a really cool thing. And then I had someone to go, you know, to go skate with and rollerblade with.
There are some people that, I mean, it either what I've found at least is for everybody that I've tried sharing it with, it either connects with people or it just doesn't. There's and there's even within those two different, you know, sections, there's degrees as well. You get people who are super tech savvy and they'll just you know, that doesn't make sense, and they just cut it off, right? They're like, I'm turning
here. This movie's not for you.
You can't hack in those little computers. Boo.
Well, I mean, they also made the hacks, like especially all the hacks you see at the end, very visual, which are obviously not how hacks are done. Like, I mean, they made it very, I don't want to say dumbed down, but yes, I guess dumbed down for people watching so everybody can understand the idea of hacking, especially back then. Like, computers were still a pretty new thing, so you had to make it like that so people could understand it. You know, it's not like today where everybody knows that stuff. Yeah.
And if you hear the director talk about it, that's pretty much exactly his reasoning. I mean, you know, they were putting this movie together in 1994. Like the average person just didn't know anything about hacking or computers.
But if you wanted to see, I mean, if you asked yourself, would you have rather, and even now, like if you'd rather have seen lines of code going or see cookies like going across the screen and Cookie Monster games, like every day of the week, I would tell you that.
Of course.
You know what I mean? Because at the time, and even, you know, to this day, it's such a cool way to sort of visualize. I mean, because there's a school of thought, right, where all of that is happening inside a computer, like the whole time, you know?
Right. I think what's even more interesting is how the landscape has shifted. You know, even a handful of years ago, right, Mr. Robot came out, and what made that so popular is how true they stayed to the content, right? It's like now that everybody knows, or not everybody, but at least people know enough, they're like, okay, like this is what hacking really is. And to a large degree, you know, and I think there's even stuff about it online, the majority of everything that they demonstrated or talked about or showed in that TV series was 100% legit, which is nice, because I even like they had, if you noticed, right, there was even a hackers.
I was just about to bring it up.
It was on the TV in the hotel room in one of the scenes, which is kind of neat to see that.
So they so for the people watching, they did a scene in Mr. Robot where this is when they were getting the team of hackers together, and they were watching the movie Hackers, and they were joking about how this is so not realistic. Like you couldn't do any of that.
Believe it or not, there's more than that, though. I guess the either the director or the writer had a lot of love for Hackers,
For sure.
and they hit a bunch of stuff.
Oh,
in
they
there.
did?
They made
I didn't know
references
that.
they make a reference to the Gibson. They bring Babbage, whatever. Fisher Stevens' name, Mr. Babbage, when he's on the airplane, right? So there's a lot of little hidden little nuances in there. It's kind of fun.
I never caught all those. That's cool.
David, that's another reminder to watch Mr. Robot.
So there's another random thing from Hackers. Me and David were obsessed with it as kids when we saw Hackers. Jolt Cola.
Oh yes.
Oh yeah.
We were
Yo,
obsessed with it. I remember
so
when
good.
we would get it whenever we could, whenever we found it. They had that time period where they kind of rebranded Jolt Cola.
Yeah.
And they had those twist off caps, and the smoke, a little bit of smoke would come out the top. And I was like, this can't be good for you at all. So have all of you indulged in Jolt Cola?
Absolutely.
Absolutely. Oh,
I thought I was one of the characters. I was like, I'm one of them now. Oh yeah.
Did it even back in the 90s, but I swear that it was maybe it's a false memory, but I swear that it was a black can. I swear it was a black can with gold stripes instead of red with whatever it is, silver stripes.
Oh yeah, because it's red with silver stripes. Yeah.
Yeah, but I swear when I had it in the 90s, I will put money that it was a black can. Maybe I can look it up.
no, he's got a rabbit hole.
Now, here we go.
So
looking it up. Keep
so
talking.
so when did you guys first drink Jolt? Was it around the time you guys saw the movie? Was it later on? And do you prefer it over Pepsi or Coke?
I mean, I definitely first had it, in the last 5 years.
Oh wow, okay.
Did they re-release it? They re-released Joel.
Yeah.
This is brown.
Oh hey, look, Eric.
Coca-Cola black
Yeah,
can.
There it is. Yeah.
Wow.
You created like a Jolt singularity by holding your phones together.
Oh man, I kind of want some now.
Yeah, I don't know. Do any of you guys know if they stopped producing it or
They re-released it.
Yeah.
But is it the same ingredients?
It's still twice the
couldn't
sugar,
tell
double
you.
the caffeine.
Yeah,
but I don't know.
I mean, I don't know. I haven't
You're
drilled down that nerdily into Jolt Cola. Like, if we started really getting into the science of the beverages they were drinking,
Oh, they were terrible.
that level of nerdery is, yeah.
Nostro Azero beer, by the way, is what the beer that they were drinking in basically every beer scene, in case you wanted to know.
Oh,
Yeah.
I never
I
knew
did
what
wanna
beer
know.
they were drinking. I never knew what beer they were drinking.
I do have Jolt Cola original enamel pin on my leather jacket. Like,
Awesome.
I have
Right.
that. So,
That is awesome.
for those who know, they know.
So
Yeah, people look at that and go hackers. So
Yeah.
I think it's
Yeah.
that's been pretty cool.
yeah. Going down the line, what's your guys' favorite scene? Like, what scene do you guys resonate the most with that movie? What was the big scene for you guys?
I will say, go ahead,
Go
Jen.
ahead.
No,
I was
I'll
just going to say, I think my most memorable scene from the movie is the scene when they're at Cyberdelia, like sitting at the table talking about the rainbow books with Serial and Joey. That definitely stood out to me. And the rainbow books was one of the first rabbit holes I went down.
Mm-hmm.
For me, it's got to be the opening montage. Like, for me, Johnny Lee Miller in the airplane and then flying over New York as it changes into, the circuit boards and the combination of that with the music. For me, that still holds up today, like as one of the most well put together intros or intro scenes to a movie. I mean, that still gets me today. I've watched the movie well over 100 times, doing all this silly research. It still holds up. I'll watch the whole damn thing. I don't know.
Only over 100 times? That's rookie numbers.
Conservative for sure. Like that's probably complete like watch throughs. I'm sure.
No, I actually love your intro. How you recreated that for the intro.
That's
for
exactly
YouTube,
right.
so
Yeah.
definitely a great job with that. Chris, how about you?
The Cyberdelia one for sure is pretty good, but I think for me the hack off montage, it's tough. Like that whole sequence of scenes, I can't really pick one out of there, but like those are incredible to me. Either that or when they're preparing to go after the Gibson. I think.
I think
her hacking. I mean, there's so many things. I mean, God,
Go for it.
the hack off thing is so good. It's just such a I mean, the
Oh
soundtrack.
yeah, that scene was crazy.
It's
Yeah.
so good.
I
That was
mean,
intense.
there's a lot of scenes for me. I think the most visually standout scene that always pops out of my head was from the hack off montage when they're in Chinatown and they're all around the phone booth.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
And it's
Wow.
just that visual, I just always stuck with me. It's such a cool visual of all of them, and the way they did the cinematography and everything was so perfect in that.
Totally agree.
Yep, the '90s definitely love their montages.
They did.
There's a little fact, if you haven't ever seen this, in Cyberdelia, they show them twice in 2 separate scenes in the same spot wearing the same clothes. So if you watch the movie, you can see it repeat. When they go the first time and come back the second time, it's still
Wow.
Movie magic.
yeah.
I always wanted
100%
that.
rewatching.
I always wanted that place to be real. So
Not
bad.
the only one.
Not the only one.
So bad. There
I
has to be
want to buy
someone.
the greatest Zooks album outside of rollerblading, wipeout fueled, Hackers Paradise.
The closest you might get, and this is a guy that we sort of did a little thing with, is a place called the DNA Lounge in San Francisco. The guy Jamie, he's big into it as well. He's done a bunch of hackers related stuff, and when he built that club, he said Cyberdelia was the inspiration for a lot of the interior stuff. And they, even today, over the last handful of years, they have a hacker screening. They bring in ramps and they incite people to do rollerblades and everything else, and have costume contests. So it's alive and well.
That's pretty awesome. So do you guys have any videos planned, anything planned that you guys have going on?
Damn it, I was gonna ask that.
Yeah. I'm well into a handful of months now on recreating Angelina Jolie's laptop.
Nice.
I have some teaser photos and stuff like that. It's one thing to just make it, but of course, I've got to make it function and work and everything else. And ran into a couple of hiccups that I had to get around, but that's a few months in the making now.
And that's another opportunity to spam her, inbox.
Oh, trust me, I have.
Does this look familiar?
Is this yours? We found it.
And Chris, Jen, do you guys have anything that you guys are working on for the website or anything?
Not currently. Eric's really the mastermind of the operation. I think I've primarily been involved by helping out with interviews and stuff like that in the last couple of years.
Nice.
Well, man.
Yeah, same.
So Chris, the pressure's on.
Just doing. I'll make those like funky GIFs that are there that accompany the videos. Again, supporting Eric.
No pressure, guys. No pressure.
No,
pressure's on. Pressure's on for sure.
I will say I think the only personal project I have going on hackers related is Serial's keyboard. Has all those
nice.
stickers and stuff
Yeah,
on it.
yeah.
So I've been slowly recreating the ones that you can see in vector so that we can print them and people can get the key stickers. However, it's shown for like 3 seconds and there are fingers in the way of it. So I have to keep pausing it and breaking it and kind of seeing like what's there. Some is Sharpie, there's all of that. So I think that's probably the only ongoing.
That's awesome.
Side project.
Well, Chris, whenever you get that together, let me know and I will be the first
to
buy one off of you.
Once the stickers are done, I plan to just like fully release it for everybody to have because it's, something I'm in love with, and I know other people would probably dig it too.
And David, you know what time it is. Your favorite question.
Okay, so how do I formulate this question? So what advice would you give to someone that's trying to, get memorabilia, get, guests, someone obsessed with a movie? What's the steps that you would go about?
Yeah, so pretty much what I think he's trying to say is somebody who's really passionate and is afraid to show their passion like you guys have, and to just go forth and go with it. Well, what advice would you give that person?
What he said.
Trust me when I tell you that regardless of how niche you think your ideas or your interests or your loves might be, there is a family out there looking for other people like themselves, right?
Love it.
And that,
Absolutely.
no matter how weird it might feel to you, there are like-minded people out there just waiting for someone to sort of, you know, put their foot out there and be like, hey, I'm weird. Are you weird? Right?
You want to be weird together?
Yeah. And it will snowball from there. Trust me.
Chris, Jen, you guys have anything to add?
To be honest, I can't really even imagine, you know, being afraid to put my foot out there and, you know, dive super deep into some weird ass thing that I became interested in. So I guess the way I would try to pitch it is just, you know, as much interest as you have now, you're going to find out so much more stuff that makes you even more interested. Like, I honestly can't believe some of the crazy shit that we've come across while looking for, you know, a random patch on someone's jacket. There's always like an interesting story to be had if you look deep enough.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. I mean, I think it's like life is so much better when you just kind of give into it, right? And you just sort of say like, and I mean, especially now, because I didn't have anyone from when I was 13 on that had any interest in the movie Hackers until I got to college, until I met some other people, until I found these two, you know, I mean, and that blew it open. And then through this, we found, you know, there's a shout out, there's a girl named Cyber Coco that created this incredible lookbook inspired by the fashion. We find, you know, there's fan art, there's other people making props, there's people in the UK there's a guy in the UK who saw the pink shirt books that we had and was like, actually guys, like, and you know, stuff like that. You know, you find people coming out of the woodwork that are so stoked to find you, and that mutual energy is so invigorating, right? Like, it's such a cool way to experience something. And so yeah, for me, I would have always still been a fan, but I think meeting them and becoming part of this, and then meeting everyone else made me like more of a super fan if possible. And it just made me feel like, oh, this is totally worth my time. Like, all of it is worth my time. Like, so yeah, dude, get out there, like dig in. Like, it's totally worth it.
Yeah, you heard it, guys.
I think the nice thing about people like us is that obviously we can't wait to tell you about the thing we're interested in. And just imagine all the other people out there that you're going to make so happy by giving them an excuse to tell you what they know that you don't.
Oh, totally. 100%. Yeah.
And it's self-fulfilling in a lot of ways. You know, eventually someday I'll kick the bucket when I go up to the pearly gates. I'll try to say, now, how much, if at all, did the small part that we play result in the re-release of the soundtrack on vinyl? How much did what we do result in some of these, you know, the Ruckingfotten t-shirts and some of these other t-shirts that have come out? You know, I personally like to think that maybe you know, we've had something to do, or some small minuscule part to play on people like, oh, there is interest in this, I can release something. So you never know where it's going to stop, right? Just be willing to put it out there. And I mean, if you really love it, if you really have a passion for it, I think, you know, Jen was kind of making this point. It's like, you know, ultimately, who cares what other people think? Be passionate about it because you like it. But yeah, you know, just be willing to do it.
Yeah. So one of the things about us doing this podcast is I love different subcultures, and how there's a subculture for everything. I mean, we've interviewed people that are professional hacky sack players and stuff like that. It's just crazy the subcultures are for every little thing. So like they said, don't be afraid to let yourselves out there, guys, and open up. Like they said, there really is somebody out there who like I said, I came across them. Yeah, I came across them, and the first thing I said was like, wow, there's somebody else who cares about hackers as much as I do. So yeah, there really is somebody out there for all you guys. So that is usually our last question, but there was one more question I wanted to ask you guys. If you guys were hackers, what would your names be? What would your alias names be? If you guys haven't already thought about this yet, And sorry for putting you on the spot if you haven't.
Well, Chris has the best name ever, Pissy Kitten.
Pissy Kitten, yes.
Missy Kitten.
I mean, I think we've all got our handles up on the screen
Yeah.
already.
Yeah, I was
Yes.
gonna say.
Absolutely.
So then you guys were all way ahead of me.
Easy answer.
I would not want to get hacked by Pissy Kitten.
Absolutely not.
There was a missing pet poster I saw in Iowa, and it was a picture of an angry possum, and it said missing cat, like pissy animal and whatever, and I was like, oh my god, Pissy Kitten, and I couldn't drop that forever. So next time you see angry possum,
That's hilarious.
Well, I mean, thank you guys. I can literally talk to you guys all day about Hackers. I'm sure I will keep bothering Eric now that I know him about
Absolutely.
things. And yeah, if anybody listening hasn't seen Hackers, please go see Hackers. If you guys have not checked out the Hackers Curator's website or their YouTube channel, we will have all the links. Please go follow these guys. It's really cool. Check out Hackers. I'm 100% sure that you guys will love the movie if you're watching this podcast. So thank you guys so much for being a part of our little podcast we have here, guys.
Thanks
Hack
so
the
much for
planet.
having
Hack
us.
the planet.
Awesome, guys. And as always, may the force be with you guys. Peace out.